Welcome to Connecting the Dots, a laser-focused quick-fire interview on the food and the economy with international experts, where we seek answers to questions all of us should be asking. I'm Ajay Jakhat, Chairman Bharat Krishik Samaj, Farmers Forum India, and also the Vice Chair of Action Track to Shift to Sustainable Consumption Patterns. Today we have with us the very distinguished Philip Lymbery, the Global Chief Executive Officer of the lead farm animal welfare charity Compassion in World Farming. Philip is also the visiting professor at the University of Winchester and the founding board member of the World Federation for Animals. You are a strong advocate for ending factory farming on a global scale, an award-winning author of Farmageddon, the true cost of cheap meat and the dead zone, where the wild things were, and you are currently writing your third book, I believe, 60 Harvests Left. Thank you, Philip, for joining us today.
AJ, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for having me along.
Compassion in World Farming works and liaisons with both the food industry and the government, the media, to center animal welfare associations as an essential part of a just and human food system. You have been leading the Compassion for more than a decade now. Do you see a change in the attitude and the policies of large corporates and governments towards animal welfare and the consequences of factory farming?
Absolutely. I see a big change, a much greater receptiveness to animal welfare and the need to make changes based on animal welfare. I've been part of Compassion in World Farming for over 30 years. And I remember the 1990s when it just seemed like we were perpetually banging our heads against a brick wall of government and certainly of corporations. But governments started to take animal welfare seriously from around the mid-90s. We managed to get the European Union, for example, to recognize animals in law as sentient beings, a recognition that they feel pain and suffer. And from that, various legislations started to come about into the 2000s, and companies started to make game-changing steps, such as moving away from selling caged eggs at all. So big companies like McDonald's and supermarkets and things of this nature. And now we're seeing a real awakening on the back of COVID, that actually the way that we treat animals can have a profound effect on the health of people, and that protecting people means protecting animals too. The things go hand in hand. So I do think that there is a big awakening going on, that actually the way we treat animals has a big bearing on our future.
In 2018, at the Oxford Union debate, you argued that the world will reach a stage where we might not need animals for food. The issues that you have been campaigning about for decades have now been receiving increased attention and support in recent years, especially from individual consumers and civil society organizations. How can we utilize this support to accelerate the transition to a more just and sustainable food systems?
Well, I think that harnessing the power of concerned citizens and consumers, civil society, is a big part of driving a movement to get bottom-up pressure for top-down change. And what I mean by that is big things happen when policymakers make seismic changes. And so that's why, for example, I welcome the UN Food System Summit talking about transforming foods, the food system and the need for that. And this is part of that change. Once you get policymakers to make big changes, then things start to move to a new paradigm. But they don't do that in and of themselves very often. They do that from a groundswell of pressure from civil society, from concerned citizens and consumers. And what Compassion in World Farming does is helps to target, to harness that pressure and focus it on the policymakers that need it most, need to hear the message that people want change because people want a future.
Due to sustained advocacy, there is a growing movement among consumers towards flexitarian, vegetarian, vegan diets, for ethical and environmental reasons. However, do you think that techno fixes such as cell cultured meat and processed fake meat products should be a part of the movement? Would the demand for such food and such options also create opportunities for further consolidation and monopolization of the food value chains by the food industry?
I think the answer to that is that we need a portfolio of solutions going forward. And I very much believe in the need to transit away from industrial animal agriculture, factory farming, which is the dominant model globally, towards a regenerative type of farming where animals are kept as they should be, on the land and treated as living, breathing creatures that are connected to the land and connected to nature. So a shift to regenerative agriculture, also combined with a move away from high meat consumption diets. And there, I think there is a range of solutions. And I do see cultured meat and plant-based meats being part of that portfolio. Not the only ones. I don't subscribe to the solution. I subscribe to a range of solutions that are context specific and right for the particular countries and regions. So I do see cultured meat as part of moving the dial, because at the moment globally we're eating more meat than ever before per capita, per person, and there's more people than ever before. So something needs to be done. And I see cultured meat and these plant-based meats as very much the renewable energy solution for food, where people that want to eat meat, and they do, where we can give them something which has the taste, the convenience, and in time at the same or lower cost than meat which predominantly comes from factory farms. Does it offer a hostage to fortune? Does it enable greater monopolization by corporations? Well, to be honest, any aspect of the food system offers that scope for monopolization by the food system. So I don't think it's about a particular type of product. I think we do need to look at the structure and the support mechanisms within the food system that have allowed this giganticism, this centralization to go on. And therefore, I do think that part of the policy changes that are needed are policy measures that encourage and support sustainable farming and food, the smallholder food and farming production, a switch from industrial towards that land-based agroecological and regenerative types of farming, together with these renewable energy equivalents for food, such as cultured meat and plant-based. It's worth also saying that that cultured meat does offer in time, in 10 or 15 years time, the opportunity to really democratize meat in the same way as we can all produce bread using a bread making machine in our house. The idea is that in 10 or 15 years we may be able to three-dimensionally print cultured meat through a machine, a similar sized machine as that bread maker in our own kitchens. So that could help to decentralize the food system.
Well, that's a point which could get contentious, I think, so with many communities. But let's come to the next question: is livestock and small ruminants are an integral part of the regenerative farming principles and practices. Although it is now apparent that we need to drastically cut down meat consumption to fix our broken food systems, how has your organization visualized to ensure that in regenerative farming systems, traditional pastoralist societies and smallholder farmers can maintain their way of life? Is it part of the advocacy that you're doing?
Absolutely is part of the advocacy. I believe that pasture-based farming, that smallholder farming is very much the future. Here in Britain, where I lived agriculture. And of that, 2/3 is pasture. We in Britain should be a nation of pastoralists, should be a nation of grazers. But increasingly animals are disappearing into factory farms and being fed grain that could be feeding people. This is really a travesty. What we see as our visualization is moving away from industrial animal agriculture, away from keeping animals in sheds kept and fed on grain, instead restoring the animals to the pastures, to the fields. And what type of animals? In this rebalanced regenerative structure where we're eating less but better meat, well, the mainstay of the farmed animal community would, in my view, be ruminants, be cattle and sheep and other ruminant animals, and they would be moving around in mixed farm rotations. There would be some poultry, there would be some pigs, again, pasture-based, pigs being kept predominantly pasture-fed, chickens foraging and also eating properly produced, properly processed food waste. But the visualization is animals back on the land, fewer of them, kept better on pasture. So the pastoralist, the smallholder farmer, I believe, is a very big part of the way forward.
Which comes to the last question. In March 2021, you are appointed as United Nations Food Systems Champion for the 2021 UN Food Systems Summit. Do you think the issue of animal welfare and its linkages with industrial agriculture is being adequately represented and addressed in the summit process?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that the UN Food Systems Summit is a fantastic opportunity to bring together the ideas for transformation of the food system. And AJ, I know that this is your view too, but that the Food Summit, a big positive out of it, a big end product, is that it elevates the standing of food in the global context. It puts it up the political agenda as something which is central to saving the planet, to saving our future. Within that construct, within that very positive construct, I do think that animal welfare and the role of animals in industrial agriculture has been underrepresented. In fact, I'm proud champion of the UN Food Systems Summit, brought in to be the standard bearer for animal welfare. But as far as I know, I'm the only one. And certainly in the conversations I've had, for example, in the Sustainable Livestock Solutions Cluster, animal welfare has only been mentioned because I've mentioned it. So I do think that animal welfare as part of, as a central iceberg indicator of a sustainable food system has been largely underrepresented, and we need to put that right. And so that is why I encourage anyone in the animal welfare community to get engaged with the UN Food Systems Summit. I'm hearing that civil society interests are disengaging from the UN Food Systems Summit. And I say, why are we doing this? Because all we allow to happen there is that our interests are even less well represented. We create a vacuum that gets filled not with transformational ideas, but business as usual ideas. So let's get involved in the UN Food Systems Summit. Let's put our ideas on the table. Let's raise the flag for a humane, healthy, and regenerative food system that creates a just and sustainable future for all of us everywhere. That is my vision. That is why I support the food system. That is why I believe that the event that is talking about transformational change of the food system is so important.
I think that's a good point you made about regenerative farming and other systems. I think there are lots of participants who are supporting animal welfare, especially those who are supporting regenerative farming practices, who are supporting agroecological practices and theories, and they're supporting animal welfare, but they may have a problem with techno fixes, and this remains a part of the food systems debate. I hope to see you sometime and try and be convinced on your techno fixes, because I still need to be convinced on that point. But animal welfare, yes, we are on the same boat, and thank you for the interview. Thank you for the time that you've given to us on this. Thank you, Philip.
AJ,
thank you so much.
AJ, a real pleasure. Thank you very much.